Good morning, and thank you all so much for being here. We are prepared to begin phased implementation of Phase 3 in order to equitably reopen, bringing more of our people back to work while safely returning our children back into the classroom. We do this while creating more opportunities, but also with ramped up enforcement. We'll continue to be safe while becoming and really making sure we balance our economic recovery. So I am joined here this morning with my director of the New Orleans Health Department, Dr. Jennifer Vegno. Also joined by Peter Bowen, Deputy CAO of the Office of Business and External Services. Also joined by Jeffrey Swartz, who is my director of the Office of Economic Development, all for the City of New Orleans. Want to begin always by thanking our residents who have just been unwavering in demonstrating their civic trust as we have moved through this pandemic since March of this year. Also our business community, who collectively has taken big hits, and we all have, but our business community truly has, and I do recognize and we understand the hardship, while at the same time focusing on our public health and doing the best we can to open our economy back up. It's very important. Together, we have all stayed vigilant. We've moved through again Phase 2 and through a very active hurricane season that's still very active if you've been paying attention. We have flattened the curve in the city of New Orleans and slowed down the spread of this virus significantly, and we've done it twice. Now, when we had to push back and really kind of tighten the reins as we moved into Phase 2, we did not see a surge at all, but we responded twice and we flattened the curve. Public schools have reopened, they really have, and we have not seen any negatives associated with returning our pre-K through 4th grade students back into the classroom. And as of today, there have been less than 50 cases per day for more than 14 days. Positivity rates, less than 3% for the past 21 days. There have been over 1,000 tests per day since July of 2020. And let me tell you, we will continue on that path and even pushing for antigen testing, as I've been and we have been in constant communication with our Senator Cassidy, who is spearheading this effort at the federal level. In the past week, we have seen no COVID-related deaths in our community, which is a big demonstration of progress here. Because of these milestones, the City of New Orleans will move into Phase 3 on October the 3rd. Now, with all of these phases, as you know, the City of New Orleans has taken a slight different approach than the state of Louisiana, and we will continue on that path. You'll hear more about this. So just like with Phases 1 and Phase 2, again with Phase 3, it will differ slightly from the state. There will be 3 parts of our Phase 2, going into 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, giving the public, giving our businesses, giving our residents more of a roadmap or milestones that if we continue to make progress, we'll move right on to 3.2, we'll move right on into 3.3. In Phase 3, Priority 1, which is that 3.1, restaurants will be able to open at 75% indoor and with 100% outdoor seating capacity with, of course, proper social distancing. Very important. Bars will be able to move forward with selling to-go alcohol only. This is in the 3.1. Again, we have milestones that are forthcoming for you this morning. Indoor public and private gatherings shall be limited to 50 individuals. Outdoor public and private gatherings shall be limited to 100 individuals. Retail stores, as well as our salons, will be allowed to move towards 75%, open at 75% capacity. Capacity for places of worship in the 3.1 only. We're looking at maintaining that 50%. But again, with the timeline that you will be able to follow, and you can see the growth as relates to 3.2, moving into that second priority. With all of this, we are all still wearing face coverings. It's very important that we do. And again, stay 6 feet apart. That social, that physical distance is very important. And also understanding that we're in the midst of, again, flu season. So I believe that if we continue to practice, again, the social distancing, wearing the face covering, then we will hopefully see a slight downtrend, I would say, in the flu season or the impact of flu season. Halloween. Now, I mentioned, I'm going to give her a little shout out here. I mentioned Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is a 6th grader at Bricolage who emailed me, and she's also affiliated with Girl Scouts Troop 40150. Have to give her a little shout out. But Brooklyn is a 6th grader at Bricolage who emailed me about Halloween and saying, please do not cancel. And I said, Brooklyn, it's not going to happen. We're not canceling Halloween, and it will move forward slightly different. However, we will be moving forward. Now, Brooklyn gave the idea of starting trick-or-treating at earlier hours before it gets dark, so to give more people time and to practice the physical distancing. And so could they get out there sooner rather than later? Absolutely. And I just want to celebrate Brooklyn for her idea, and it's absolutely one that I'm going to embrace and fully encourage our young people, our families, to get out there sooner than later. Halloween will go on again, but similar to everything during this pandemic, again, looking a little bit different. The guidelines, as I mentioned, social distancing, wearing masks will continue to be in place. Now, for haunted houses can apply for special permits from the state fire marshal that, of course, we would be accepting. We recommend small groups, again, for trick-or-treating. And parents should be mindful of their kids moving from door to door, and small groups, keeping them safe at every level. So we'll be talking more about Halloween as we move closer to it, but I did want to hit that because that was a big topic on yesterday. So we have made every decision focused, of course, on the safety of our city and also looking through the lens of equity. We've looked at activities and businesses that have really proved that they can operate safely without accelerating the spread of COVID-19. And we thank you, businesses, for doing just this. You've just been consistent, and we really appreciate you. We look very carefully at applying our guidelines in every way that, again, was fair and equitable to all of our people, considering the inequities that prevent really things, this level playing field that we've had to experience together. Our top priority will remain, again, getting all of our kids back into school. On October 12th, we will be welcoming 5th through 12th graders, again, back in person learning in the classroom. The city will continue to support local and small businesses. You're going to hear more about that from Jeff, and you will also hear more about our enforcement efforts from Peter and the like. So the progression, again, through phase 3 and beyond will continue to be guided by the data and continue to be guided how we, as the public, respond to the guidelines that are in place. The work continues, so both the public health and our economy, they're intertwined. I recognize that, and we want to do everything possible to open our economy back and ensuring that we are a healthy city, not only to live in, but also the city to visit. On yesterday, we announced that there will be no additional extensions regarding short-term rental operations. That's very important. No more additional extensions there. The city is pursuing enforcement actions against illegal or unlicensed short-term rental activity. This will include requesting platforms and all of them to remove non-compliant listings. Now, we may request delisting for failing to include a license or application reference number for both an owner and an operator license, advertising more bedrooms than legally permitted, Also, advertising over capacity among other violations of the law. However, we will not delist, okay, as it relates to license holders whose license have been extended and those who are conforming to the guidelines that are in place. So the good actors, you're fine. We're wanting to support you. We're wanting to be proactive in our approach, but the bad actors, we definitely have to deal with. Now, I also want to, going back to the businesses real quick, I want to give a special shout out to Mark Shetler, who has just been a tremendous partner with the city of New Orleans, and he is a part of our bar community. He has spearheaded the BRACE pledge. But BRACE, it's the Business Resilience and Community Education BRACE pledge. It really is a resource for businesses that want to be consistent and credible and with reliable information for themselves and for their patrons. And I want to encourage all of our businesses to go ahead and take the BRACE pledge. And you can find that at www.braceforcovid19.com. And I think this is a perfect segue as we're talking about phase 3. And as I mentioned, the progress, and also I mentioned our phased approach into phase 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 is the perfect opportunity now to bring forth Dr. Vegno, who will provide you with a brief presentation, and then we will move through our press conference with more information. So thank you again. Dr. Vegno? And I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. We are entering, or we have entered, I think, our 8th month of the fight against COVID-19 in New Orleans, and we know that there are many more ahead of us to come. So I just want to start by recognizing where we've been and how we got to where we are today. This is a good day. We started, as you remember, as probably the fastest growing national hotspot, but thanks to the swift action of our mayor and our residents, we slowed the spread early on, really in a way that very few other communities have done. After a little bump, as the mayor mentioned, in our initial phase 2, we were able to zero in on those activities that were responsible for some of that spread and pull back as we needed to. Since then, since midsummer, we've been very successful in sustaining our low case numbers with the specific primary goal of getting our kids back into the classroom safely. And as the mayor said, and as many of you know, our youngest students are back in school, and older students set to come in a hybrid model depending on their school later this month. And I speak as a parent when I say how tremendous that's been. We have learned a lot in the last 7 months or so, but our priorities are the same as they were in March, and that is to protect the health of our residents, especially those most vulnerable to severe illness, and to do so in the most equitable way possible. So while I'm really happy to stand here with the mayor and discuss our easing of restrictions into phase 3, we can't forget the 12,672 New Orleanians who contracted the virus that we know of, and the 587 who have died since March 9th. Our entire community has been affected in a very profound way by this pandemic. So I'll start like I usually do, just going over the milestones. Again, these are all available on our website. We're actually tweaking it a bit to make it a little more user-friendly. These are not the only pieces of data that we look at. They are the main ones, but there are many, many more. So if you go to ready.nola.gov/data, you can see it all to your heart's content. As you can see, our average daily cases have remained below our threshold for most of the month of September. That little blip that you see kind of at the beginning of September largely was attributed to our universities coming back. And again, I want to commend our local universities for testing widely and really being proactive about isolation and quarantine. They have been great partners, and we have not seen those cases spread significantly in the community. We continue to be well above our testing goal of 500 tests per day. Again, that's thanks to our many partners, LCMC, the Louisiana National Guard, Louisiana Department of Health, CORE, Ochsner and Tulane Health Systems, who have been providing free testing in our community across the city in a really targeted way since the spring. As the mayor said, we are 100% committed to continue to provide testing for anyone concerned about exposure, including those who are asymptomatic. We have robust testing right now. Please, we encourage anybody. If you want to find out where you can go get a test, it's ready.nola.gov/testing. So positivity rate is really a great way to look at a couple of things in one number. Number one, certainly it gives an idea of the burden of cases, how many people are infected a community, but it also shows how well you're testing. And so both of those things, our cases are low, our testing is robust, gives us a really low positivity rate. Our rate has been among the lowest in the state and really across the region for a very long time, and so we're really pleased about that. Our hospital capacity is certainly much better than it was. If you might remember that uptick in transfers from other regions and other states this summer, our hospitals, I'm very happy to say, have now returned to local operations and capacity remains robust. Several of our hospitals have the lowest number of COVID patients they've had since it began. So we are meeting all of our thresholds to ease restrictions and move into phase 3. When we have been considering this easing of restriction, and this is something we've been talking about for a long time, really wanting to do it right, there are several key considerations that we're taking into account as we move forward, and many of these are lessons learned in the past several months. Outdoor activities are safer than indoor activities in terms of the way this virus spreads, which is why you're going to see a focus on outdoors in our policies and in the economic development resources that Jeff's going to talk about, which are exciting. Seated, timed events are safer than uncontrolled gathering. So that's why we will continue to allow a larger number of people to present in seated events like a church service, a movie, a meeting in a large conference room, while there will be a stricter limit to the number of people participating in an uncontrolled gathering like a wedding or a party or a social event. The indoor restrictions that we're going to ease are those that we have looked at with microscopes that have a safety record that does not suggest that they have significantly contributed to outbreaks in Orleans Parish. And then always, we have taken care to the greatest extent possible that these policies do not worsen the health and economic inequities that have been exacerbated and exposed by the pandemic. And so that is to say, as much as is safely possible, we have prioritized opening sectors and activities that house the most local jobs for the least risk to the community in terms of health. So we've learned from phase 1 and 2 that it is best to take a measured approach. That's why phase 3 is not just phase 3. There are several steps to phase 3. And each step, of course, comes with a really thorough review of all of the data as we're moving along. So we'll ease some restrictions first, we'll monitor data, and then further. The goal is to move within them within 2 to 3 weeks, if the data allows. However, if we're starting to see concerning trends or negative trends, then we'll be able to pause and really figure out what is it that's causing that, rather than having to shut everything back down and start from scratch. So in general, in 3.1, as the mayor alluded to, we will increase capacity for those operations that we have not seen significant outbreaks. So retail, restaurants, museums. We will allow our bars to begin to sell to-go drinks, and we will increase gathering sizes from 25 indoors to 50 indoors, 50 outdoors to 100 outdoors. In 3.2, we will consider expanding outdoor bar capacity. So bars would be able to, again, seated, table service only, outdoors. It's perfect timing with the weather and what Jeff's going to talk about. We also, because again, we know that timed seated events are generally lower risk, we would increase the capacity limits for that. So we're talking about churches. As you know, our high school stadiums, our outdoor stadiums like Tad Gormley, we now have a limit on 250 as they begin the football season. Since again, that is a timed seated event. People are buying tickets ahead of time, they're coming in, they're getting a seat, they're sitting down, they're watching, and they're leaving. We would expand that as well, incrementally, not huge jumps, but definitely incrementally. And then in 3.3, if we continue to progress, we would consider limited indoor bar capacity along the lines of what the state guidelines would currently allow, and then also increasing our indoor and outdoor gathering sizes if those are proven to be safe. So that's just sort of a high-level overview. Absolutely essential to moving through anything or participating in any activity are the fundamental tenets of disease control that we've been talking about for months. So if you are a business that is allowed to go to 75%, if you can't space people or things or tables out 6 feet, then you have to stick with that, whatever that capacity limit is. The masking, social distancing, and all the hygiene is priority, whether you're going to a retail store, whether you're having a birthday party, whether you're going to a movie theater or museum. All of that does not change, and that takes precedence over whether you're at 50% or 75%. Just because we're easing restrictions, we can't let our guard down. None of this is going to go away. So just a little more details, and we've already touched on this, and the mayor hit the highlight. This will go into effect 6 a.m. Saturday morning. You see the things that are 75%. This is in line with what the state phase 3 is at the moment. And this will all be on the website, so you don't have to worry about it. We have infographics, we have the full guidelines, so you don't have to worry about writing it down just yet. In terms of alcohol, as you know, the state restriction is 11 p.m. for sales of alcohol for bars and restaurants. So bars now included in restaurants to sell to-go drinks from 8 to 11. The governor's phase 3 order limits for on-site consumption at restaurants and bars. That's because late night uncontrolled crowds have been associated with ongoing alcohol sales. You see this in other cities. You see this in Nashville. You see this in Memphis. Other cities, you see this in the UK. They're closing the sales of alcohol at a certain time limit. So it's not just a Louisiana or New Orleans thing. We've really seen this as an issue in a hyper-local setting in the French Quarter Entertainment District, where after restaurant alcohol sales end at 11, crowds, uncontrolled crowds, continue drinking packaged liquor on Bourbon Street into the overnight hours. And I think everybody has seen those pictures. So for this reason, as we expand to be able to allow our bars to start to sell alcohol within the limitations, we will be limiting the sales of packaged liquor in the entertainment district between the hours of 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. to be consistent. And the boundaries for this are going to be the Mississippi River to Rampart, Esplanade to Common Street. Again, we are increasing the limits for social gatherings, 50 indoors, 100 outdoors, but again, mandatory masking, mandatory social distancing, even at these uncontrolled gatherings. That is really the primary way to keep people safe. And there are countless stories across the country of tragedies that occur when people get together to celebrate. So we do not want to repeat that in our city. As a reminder, state guidelines continue to prohibit indoor live entertainment, so that's not going to be changing for us either. Gatherings that are not at a special event venue must obtain a special event permit from the city, and we've had lots of those. We've had some really creative things happening, and so that's exciting. And then finally, we're going to offer some enhanced outdoor seating options, which Jeff will talk about. Activities that you don't see here, for the most part, remain the same, but there are some specific smaller industries or nuances that didn't fit into a slide. So they'll be available immediately after the press conference at Miller Ready. I just want to thank again our residents for getting us to this point. We want to stay in forward progress. I think we have all the tools to do so. I think our mask wearing and our distancing adherence is probably some of the highest that I've seen when I look at pictures around the country. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vegno. Thank you so much. And Peter, I'm going to ask you to come on up and give us some more updates. Enforcement.
The fun topic. The Office of Business and External Services is working to ensure that the city reopens safely within the guidelines so that all of our businesses can continue to grow and thrive. Phase 3 will see an increased enforcement as we prepare for long-term, sustainable approaches to operations through this ongoing health emergency. Greater compliance and enforcement have proven to be successful. New Orleans is the best city in the state for COVID-19 health outcomes, even with our larger population. The city's enforcement efforts have been working tirelessly for the past 6 months to ensure compliance within the guidelines for businesses to operate. The enforcement strategy initially focused on educating businesses and the public of the dangers and the safety guidelines. Voluntary compliance has and continues to be our top priority. It's important to note, my colleagues have said it as well, most businesses and residents have been excellent partners, so thank you for that. The strategy morphed from education to direct enforcement against locations that continue displaying unsafe practices. Bad actors have and will continue to be temporarily shut down for not following the established guidelines. The mayor has been clear from day one that the safety of our residents is the #1 priority. To support compliance, we have worked with the bad actors to provide operational plans to reopen within compliance, to achieve compliance within the guidelines. We do not want to close any businesses, to be clear, but the safety of our people is always the goal. Unfortunately, we have seen some extreme examples of non-compliance that we've had to address. These are specifically locations that presented a definite risk to the public health or were clearly or repeatedly operating outside of the guidelines. We will continue to work with any business to support them reopening legally and safely. Following the mayor's safety goals for phase 3, it is vital to the continued progress of our city that we don't undo the hard work and sacrifices of all of our residents. We remind all citizens and business owners that by working together, we can recover faster and stronger. But to be clear, enforcement is here to stay. Phase 3 strategy will continue the great work of our task force in partnership with the ATC, State Fire Marshal, and the Louisiana Department of Health. The city will continue enforcement operations led by the Office of Code Enforcement, and with additional support and funding from the mayor and CAO, we are increasing our after-hours presence on weekends. Under phase 3, enforcement will be specifically looking for bars that are operating as bars, not just doing takeout and to-go service. This also includes street vending to stationary customers. Bars without food permits are only permitted to do takeout or to-go service under phase 3. Assembly, overcapacity, overcrowding, and large gatherings. This includes any venue or location allowing or promoting unsafe social gatherings. Any establishment offering seating at a bar or congregation around a bar. This is critical. Even in phase 3, sitting at a bar in a restaurant is not permitted. Lack of social distancing and not following the mask guidelines. My colleagues have stated this over and over again. All businesses must continue to enforce mask and social distancing. For more information on what the phase 3 guidelines are, you can always visit ready.nola.gov. Once more, that's ready.nola.gov. For ease of reference, items that are new or have been changed under these phase 3.1 guidelines will be highlighted in the updated guidelines. Most importantly, the faster we can achieve full compliance, the faster we can reopen that next round of businesses. Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna hear from Jeff Swartz on some opportunities for our businesses to take advantage of. Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody. So as the mayor mentioned, I'm Jeff Schwartz. I'm the Director of Economic Development, and I'm really pleased to be here today as a part of the city's Phase 3 announcement, and to talk about some of this administration's really innovative work to support our businesses, which is one of our main priorities as we go through COVID. Just a little bit of background. I think it's really important to state that it goes without saying that our restaurants and bars are the backbones of New Orleans community and culture. And we know that they've been deeply impacted, unlike many other, more than many other businesses during COVID. And national trends suggest that more than half of all restaurants and bars are in jeopardy of closing during the pandemic. As we balance public health and supporting our businesses, we know that these are two sides of the same coin. They are not opposed to one another. To get businesses back open and New Orleans back to work, we also know that we need to ensure that they are safe for both employees and patrons, and we are not going to allow the city to go backwards. I think the mayor and Dr. Avegno and Peter have been very clear about that over these last many months. We know that no matter what type of business or activity, as Dr. Avegno pointed out earlier, during the pandemic, being outside is safer than being indoors. That is one of the fundamental tenets that we've learned during COVID. And so from the earliest days of the pandemic, the mayor has asked her team to explore creative ways that we can support our businesses and our residents. The initiatives we're announcing today as a part of Phase 3 are part of this administration's efforts to reimagine public spaces and achieve a number of goals. There's 3 of them that I want to highlight. So number 1, this is about supporting our businesses. Through the initiatives that I'm about to briefly go over in a moment, almost every restaurant and bar in the city will be able to have some outdoor space in order to operate their business. And I can't emphasize enough how both excited I am personally about this, but what this also means for the business community of our city. This will effectively expand the amount of space in which a business can safely operate. The second is providing safe spaces. So the safety of our people, as the mayor has said from day one, is the abiding concern of this administration during this pandemic. And these efforts will ensure that all New Orleanians have as many safe spaces in which to conduct their daily lives as possible. And third, and this is the urban planner in me, activating our streets. New Orleans lives in our streets and public spaces better than anyone else in the entire world. Whether we're talking about that impromptu block party, you gotta get a special event permit for that, a second line, or a Mardi Gras parade. And one of the most challenging aspects of this pandemic has obviously been the degree to which this community has not been able to socialize in the ways that our culture needs in order to thrive. While it won't solve all of these challenges, the initiatives that I'm going to mention in a moment will help to create more vibrant streets in every corner of the city. And so today we're announcing a couple of key initiatives. So first and foremost, we're getting to show the bar some love. We're going to have a supplementary round of outdoor dining grants that we've already announced for restaurants, available for bars almost immediately. The application will be open on Friday. So in partnership with the New Orleans Business Alliance, we're rolling out a supplementary sidewalk cafe outdoor dining grant program grant. The grants are up to $2,000 to support investments in existing sidewalk cafe spaces, courtyards, off-street parking spaces, and other seating areas that are outdoors at restaurant and bar locations. It's already been, as I mentioned, available to restaurants, and we're going to get bars completely up to speed on this. Applications will begin being accepted and reviewed this Friday. So if you go to outdoordiningnola.com, this again will be on the NOLA Ready website as well, all this information. We will begin reviewing and accepting applications immediately as of Friday, and we will cut those checks as soon as the mayor and my colleagues mentioned, as soon as Phase 3.2 rolls around and bars are able to operate on-site outdoor spaces. Those checks will start flowing, so hopefully, if all goes well, in a matter of weeks. The second initiative I want to talk about today is one that's been in the works for months now. And frankly, while I feel like the city, you might have seen in other places, outdoor dining areas, and a number of other places, the city of New Orleans actually did the really hard work at the front end of this so that this is actually a program that's not just a COVID-related response, but also something that's going to be a permanent change in the New Orleans landscape that this administration piloted. We're announcing the launch of a curbside dining and parklet program. The program will enable businesses, starting with restaurants and hopefully quickly moving to bars, to create outdoor dining and seating areas that were previously dedicated to on-street parking areas. So the parking spots in front of businesses will now be able to be used by businesses, restaurants, bars, and hopefully other types of businesses to create outdoor spaces for seating, for interaction, for other types of programming. This will support our business community and create safe places to socialize outside and activate our streets in a way that I mentioned previously. So we're going to start with a pilot of that program and then move into a citywide launch. The pilot of the program is also going to be launched immediately. It's going to be done in partnership with the Downtown Development District and the French Market Corporation, as I'll mention in a moment. We are going to be starting this on Monday with the Downtown Development District within their boundaries. For those of you that aren't familiar with their boundaries, it is Iberville, the Mississippi River, the Pontchartrain Expressway, and Claiborne Avenue. And restaurants within the DDD boundaries will be able to apply for the initial round of these permits. Businesses will apply to the city just like they would for any other permit through the One Stop app or through an email that's been set up at outdoordining@nola.gov, outdoordining@nola.gov. And the pilot will be very short. We want to get this rolled out citywide as soon as we possibly can. And so we're anticipating it only being around 2 weeks. So by mid-October, we are hoping to be able to launch this citywide. And again, restaurants and bar owners outside the DDD boundaries will not be able to acquire the permit yet until we launch it citywide. But if you are interested, you can go to that same outdoor dining NOLA.com website in order to be able to express interest, and we will notify you as soon as those permits are available citywide. The citywide launch, as I mentioned, will hopefully be happening on or around October 19th, assuming we progress through phase 3 as we are expecting. And with that, the city has made another commitment of financial resources in order to support a second round of grants to support the creation of these spaces. So we started back in late August, early September with the smaller $2,000 grants to restaurants and that we're now supplementing for bars. We are now going to have larger grants up to $6,000 available to businesses citywide who want to participate, and that will be to help defray the costs of creating these spaces in those parking spots out in front of businesses. And so again, that will be through the outdoordining.nola.com website. And we could not be more excited to work with our business community and our partners like NOLA VA, the Downtown Development District, and others in order to make that happen. And then lastly, I'm very excited to also say the mayor at the beginning of the pandemic announced that she wanted to explore innovative ways to use our public rights of way. And we know that the French Quarter and our historic core of the city has been a focus of that work. And I'm excited to say that one of the initiatives that we've explored during this, and there's been an amazing city team from DPW and infrastructure and safety and permits and many others, working with stakeholders to identify different opportunities. And the French marketplace has really emerged as one of the examples that we can move forward with a lot of support right off the bat. And so there's going to be a safe and social demonstration that's going to kick off in the next couple of weeks. And that is going to be, as many of you might have heard, a streetery, an example of a street closure where folks are able to interact and socialize, and restaurants and vendors at French Market will be able to put the tables and chairs out into French Marketplace from 8 a.m. Thursday to 8 a.m. Monday morning on weekends, so on a weekly basis. This won't impact any life safety or sanitation work. Those obviously, the services will continue unabated, but this will create, in this demonstration, new opportunities for French Market vendors, connections for local residents, and ways for patrons to interact with one another in a safe and socially distanced manner. So in closing, the Cantrell administration will continue to explore all of the avenues through which we can support our businesses, workers, and communities as we weather this pandemic. And we're looking forward to working with our entire business community on these and future initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Latanya, I think we've given a lot of information, I know, and even in a short period of time. And I just appreciate you all for being so attentive, so we can go to questions.
Yes, certainly, Madam Mayor. WDSU.
Mayor Control, is there a specific number on how many businesses y'all are aware of that unfortunately have had to shut down for good or close down?
Well, I know we have the number. I know they were also doing something this morning. But I would say as of yesterday, and Peter, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the notices that were placed, because we have to place the notices directly on the doors of the properties. And I got an update yesterday. I know there were upward of 6 of those, and it is growing. So I don't have the exact number as of right now, but I know as of yesterday, they've been posting those notices. And of course, there's a process even to get to the point where we can post. So that's ongoing now.
So that's 6 businesses.
So that's 6, right?
That have closed because they can't afford to open, or because you don't have to shut them down because it's not complying?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought your question was based on non-compliance.
Yes. So 6.
We've shut down 6 with proper notice being posted on those businesses, and we will see. I would say hopefully we won't see an uptick. We want people to comply, but we are actively enforcing at higher levels.
I was kind of more so asking about the because they couldn't afford to stay open anymore? Is there any data or numbers on those businesses?
Oh, okay, that could not afford to stay open any longer. No, I don't have that. I don't have that number for you, but definitely we're tracking and trending. How we're looking too is that looking at the revenue loss, particularly of all businesses in the city. And so as of between March and August of 2020, we can roughly say that our businesses only at this point, the loss is about $2.67 billion. So very significant.
Thank you.
Fox 8 followed by WWL.
How will the phased approach impact Saints games in the Dome as well as tailgating?
Sure. Well, the Dome isn't a part of this. 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 do not speak to large gatherings in the Superdome of an upward of 20,000 people. As you know, on last week, I did allow for their pilot to move forward, an upward of 750 family members, staff, and the like. I am told that went off very well, but it's a pilot, and we will continue to see how that continues to progress. I am in constant communication, I would say, with the Saints organization, and even as of yesterday evening, I got an email from Roger Goodell telling me how good the Saints are and how he's looking for fans to return to the Dome, and I have not officially responded to him just yet. Still a little salty about the flag on the play, and I wish he would have said how great he loved the Saints 2 years ago. But on a serious note, we will continue to have and be in progressive discussions with the Saints organization. Right now, the priority is on the businesses that truly do impact the daily lives of our workforce, and that's what is reflected in the 3.1 through 3.3 that has been unveiled today.
Tailgating?
Tailgating, large gatherings is a problem, right? So that's still, we've increased the number, but the facial wearing, we have to have social distancing, absolutely, and we're wanting people to do it safely and responsibly.
WWL.
Point of clarity about bars, are those, you're talking about like corner bars, for example, that are just purely bar rooms, they can start selling to-go drinks?
No, all can do to go. Okay, and so this was, we were really thinking about our small businesses, our small bars, the neighborhood, bars, and just trying to show them a little love on the front end. But clearly, we were able to lay out that by October 16th, we can move towards the outdoor capacity. That's why the grants are so important. And I really wanted to make sure that the bars had the advantage on this second round of grant opportunities so that they can provide the capacity outdoor. And then if we do well and as charted out by the 31st, maybe we'll be aligned with the state at that particular time for about 25% capacity indoor.
And this is kind of a nitpicky part of that question, but for just a corner bar that does just to-go drinks, is that like you can go inside the bar, or do they have to have like something set up at the door?
Yeah, we're not advocating for indoor at all. They will be able to be very creative, and we saw this. That we're not, we've been here before, and when we were here before, we really saw some great actors, and it wasn't a problem. Now, when we went to indoor, that's when we saw the uptick, and we quickly, regressed. But at the end of the day, we've made tremendous progress. We continue to be in direct communication with our bar community, and hopefully they see that we're trying to not only show the love but provide some additional resources so that they can expand their capacity and operate and get back into the game.
The Lynn.
I'm wondering if there's any specific thresholds or trends that will be dependent on us moving into 3.2. So for example, if we stayed under that 5% positivity threshold, but we saw an increase over the next 2 weeks, what would that mean for 3.2?
Well, we'll balance it out. We look at multiple through multiple lenses, and so it's not just one indicator. But I'm going to have Dr. Vegno kind of walk you through those different levels and stages. Dr. Vegno?
So that's a good question, and it really depends on what we're seeing. And let's give it a more recent example. So when the universities opened, we saw a rise in cases, but our percent positivity rate stayed low. So what that means to our team is that we really need to delve into the data and figure out, where is this rise in cases? Is it coming from a specific neighborhood? Is it community-wide? Or is it mainly, is a proportion of it concentrated on the universities because they're doing so much testing? And we were able to conclude pretty confidently that the rise that kicked us above 50 for a few days were because of the large numbers of tests and that initial university testing, right? So that was a case in which we knew about it, we saw it, we looked for how it was affecting our hospitals, how it was affecting other cases in the community, and it didn't seem to be doing so. So that's a case where we could be really surgical. If all of the numbers start going up, right? All the numbers that you've seen, the positivity rate, the cases, the RT, the R naught that I've talked about, that indicates how easily the virus is being spread among people. That's one of the things. If we see that, if we see hospitalizations going up, that's an indication that we have a bigger problem. That again, we would look to see, is it coming from one particular area? Is it coming, what are school cases doing? Can we attribute it back to that? Was there a super spreading event that is sparking an outbreak that we could point to? And so our goal is always to be surgical, and if we can identify a particular problem, to intervene there rather than sort of a blanket, we're just gonna go back. It might be though, that we would pause if a number of trends were going up and we didn't have a good, we would pause and get more data before we moved forward or backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the goal of the tiered approach to phase 3 by the end of Halloween, when we go to 3.3, will we at that point look the most like the restrictions that are in place elsewhere in the state, or will we still have parts that we're a little bit behind the state?
Well, mostly it would be pretty much aligned with the state at that point. Now, there is one actually issue that we're working with the state on that is not a part of their guidelines. However, we're wanting them to be a part of ours. And that speaks to our breweries. So our breweries have been at a disadvantage as well, and they can serve food and the like. But currently that is not permitted at the state level, and we have been working through this throughout the week, and we were hoping that we would be able to announce breweries on today. However, we're still working with ATC and the state on the issues of breweries. And at the time where we work through that, we would be able to show some love there as well.
Other questions?
Who was that, Dr. Vega? Oh, you're looking at me. Okay. Get me straight now. Get me straight. Jeff, Peter, okay.
Do you anticipate with this, phased approach as we start to slowly move into phase 3 that more tourists will be coming into the city and welcome into the city?
Well, I do anticipate that. I mean, I want the city of New Orleans to be the safest place to live and the safest place to visit in the United States of America and really around the globe. That is the goal. We do see, now we have, tourists that are flying in, tourists, of course, that are driving in, but our airport still remains about 67%, in terms of down. But we're hopeful for an uptick there. I think if we continue to prove that we're being guided by data, guided by public health in our community, wanting again to be a balanced approach with getting our businesses and our economy back, that tourists will want to come to the city of New Orleans, and they really haven't stopped, but we definitely we welcome them.
WGNO.
What will it take for you to say, hey, we need to start those ad campaigns to get the tourists in? What are we looking for to go, okay, now we're ready for people to start coming in?
Sure. So now, to be clear, we have been working with our hospitality community with articulating to the public that the city of New Orleans is absolutely open. From billboard campaigns to even advertisement campaigns, mostly utilizing social media. It costs money. And so we've all been hit very hard, our industry very hard. And the dollars that we have benefited from in the past for marketing, the dollars just are not plentiful as they used to be. So we're being very creative in our approach, and the city of New Orleans is absolutely a partner in that. But I think setting the stage about us being open and safe, that's a message that we want to continue to carry. And I know that people are responding to it because they are visiting, and they're also giving us feedback about why they're visiting the city of New Orleans, and they're also letting us know that they had a great time and they felt safe, dining in the city of New Orleans. So as we continue to move forward and demonstrate that we are healthy and that we're safe and that we are very much focused on public health of our residents and our visitors, I think that will play very well for our city, for our visitors, for our businesses, and at the end of the day, for our city.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, no other questions.
Okay, thank you all again so much. We just value, we value you every step of the way.
Thank you.